Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. And man, have I got a treat for you this morning. This guy, he is killing it in real estate. And I would say, as most successful real estate entrepreneurs become, people just want to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, because there's a million people in real estate. How are the select few rising to the top? And so they end up being willing to share that knowledge for a price, and for more than price and effort, right? They want to see that you're actually committed. So today we're going to be talking to Brandon Barnes. He's part of REI Live Real Estate Investing, and he works nationally. Although he's located in Atlanta, he works nationally, and he just has built a massive real estate to where it's earning over about $1 million a year revenue. And he's just passionate about not just his own success, but really helping you get your success, right? And a trend you'll find with most successful people, they aren't really satisfied with their own success. They're okay with their own success, but really what lights them up is helping other people get success as well. Because if you're just in it for yourself, you find that you're pretty freaking lonely up at the top, but it doesn't have to be lonely at the top, and they want more people with them. So I'm excited, Brandon. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be on the Fuel Your Legacy podcast and share your little nuggets. Go ahead and tell us your story. Where did you begin? What was your childhood like? How did you end up where you are today? And what was that process like, identifying your value and determining what your legacy was going to be?
For sure. Thanks, Sam, for having me. For starters, look, I grew up, born near Chicago, but grew up in Atlanta. So 1 year old, parents moved to Atlanta to stay with some family here, and we stayed. So I am Atlanta raised and bred here. And from early childhood, I always wanted to, find ways to make money, selling candy, cutting lawns, doing different things, having parties, hosting parties. I actually hosted a party, a pay-for party in high school with one of my buddies. So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, so much so that once I started at Georgia State University, I transferred to Purdue University. They had an entrepreneurship certificate program, so 15 credit hours. So I was all in on being an entrepreneur. But my vision for that was I would climb the corporate ladder. My father worked as a corporate CPA and for the Coca-Cola company. And I thought that I would climb the corporate ladder and then find this great opportunity to work with a startup, right? That was the vision for how I would become an entrepreneur. But stuff happens, right? Life happens. And so out of Purdue, got my first opportunity with the H.J. Heinz company in Pittsburgh. Met some great people, and I'll come back to that in a second. But I worked for Heinz in a leadership development program, and I was going to rotate to 3 different cities, in different roles each 6 months. And literally right after they sent me and moved me and my family to Illinois, Iowa, the company got bought out. 3G Capital, Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. So I had to kind of commute back and forth to Pittsburgh, from Pittsburgh to the Quad Cities and on the border of Illinois, Iowa, and I found a local job with the Kraft Oscar Mayer company. So I took that role as a production supervisor. And then, believe it or not, they got bought out. So things changed a little bit there. And then I had an opportunity. I was like, hey, look, it's time for me to get back home. And I had an opportunity to come work with Talenti, an ice cream gelato company. And that was recently acquired by Unilever. So 3 for 3, I ended up at a corporate gig that got bought out. And that last stop here in Atlanta, literally 2 weeks after getting married to my beautiful wife that we met in kindergarten, met again at Georgia State University. 2 weeks after we got married in Jamaica, young son, they fired me. And it just completely rocked my world. And I reached out to a buddy that I met in Pittsburgh and asked him, man, what was that real estate thing you kept telling me about? What was that real estate thing? What was that all about? He said, hey, man, look, I actually moved to Atlanta. You can come by. I'm working with this great mentor program. You can come by. We can drive for dollars together. So literally January of 2016, I started working real estate, investing, and I never looked back. So that was the beginning for me. And it was by chance, got fired, and had an opportunity to jump into real estate.
I love it. Hey, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm curious because I've never heard it put this way. And personally, I wouldn't consider this. I'm just trying to clarify I love learning. So I'm not here to slam anybody else's belief system, but I love learning, and I've never considered this, and I would never put it this way. So I want you to explain a concept to me here. When you said you were going to go from corporate America into entrepreneurship, going from corporate America, or somehow becoming out of corporate America part of a startup system or a startup company, what part of becoming part of that startup would you consider makes you an entrepreneur at that point?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective at that point, just working with a startup, I thought that, that kind of, allows you to, use your, entrepreneurship skills to build a business from ground up. So I guess in my head, maybe it wasn't the right way to look at things, but I thought that, hey, working with a startup company, and building a business from the ground up was going to be an opportunity to, flex my entrepreneurship skills and, the whole, building a business from ground zero. Okay.
So yeah, I'm just getting clarification here just because I'm learning. So you would see yourself if that pathway had worked out, and this is what I love about life is like you think one pathway is going to work out and it doesn't, then it goes another way, it doesn't. So you weren't thinking you would join a startup that was already existing, come in and help them in whatever way they needed, like fulfill a role as a CEO or fulfill a role as something inside of the startup. You were thinking you were going to get a bunch of guys once you were successful in corporate America and kind of side hustle it and start a startup and have that go big.
Yeah. I mean, that was that goal initially. I had, along the way, part of the entrepreneurship certificate program was, coming up with different ideas, maybe an invention or, a new way to do something that was, pre-existing. So, whatever I could wrap my hands around that would allow me to, take a business or an opportunity from kind of the infancy stages, onto a large, potentially multinational company or corporation was the vision that I had. And, again, I think I've heard the saying, people plan and God laughs, right? Like it's just like whatever you thought was the plan, it doesn't always work out like that. And that's, in essence, what happened.
Yeah, I would say that's an over generous statement. I would say closer, it never works out that way. Right. My plans, I can't think of any plan that was executed, everything happened the way it was supposed to. It just doesn't happen in my life. But I love that. And that's kind of what I was digging for. When he's talking about entrepreneurship, he's talking about how can we bring fresh eyes to an industry and create something, present an idea, a philosophy, a perspective that nobody's thought of before, that nobody's really put some effort into. And the reason I think that's important to think about is that's a concept that's applicable everywhere, right? Maybe your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, your brothers and sisters, whatever, maybe they all parent one way. And you're like, you know what? I don't like the way their kids are turning out. I don't know anybody who's going to parent the way I'm going to parent, but I'm going to freaking try,
Right.
Because I want something different. Now, you may fail miserably. They may turn out worse than you planned, but the thing is you tried, you brought something new to to the environment. I think that's in parenting, but that could be any role, whether you're in corporate America. The people who get paid the most in corporate America are generally the people who are willing to take the risk to be innovative.
Right. 100%.
Right? I have a client right now, and he works for a large corporation, and his higher ups, they keep giving him more and more stuff to do, and he keeps delegating more and more stuff to the people under him. So he's got like a very low level activity job, but gets paid very well for how much effort he does. And they're like, why aren't you doing this? He's like, why would I do it if this person can do it better? Like, that's his skill set. Like, why would I? Anyway, so he's innovating inside of this corporate structure and making his life easier, his family's life better. He's getting pay raises because he's becoming somebody who can get stuff done and people can count on, and he's still inside of a corporate structure. So the same mentality of entrepreneurship, I believe, not just can be fostered anywhere, but it's in your best interest to foster that type of mentality, even if you're in corporate America still.
For sure.
That's kind of my belief system. And something happened to where you were able to go from your first corporate job, what was it?
The ketchup company, H.A. Heinz.
Okay.
Yeah, Heinz ketchup. We, a lot of great opportunities came from just being at the right place, the right time. Like, Purdue opened the door for me to intern with them 2 different summers. And then also I minored in German because I started German here and as a 4th grader. So I actually had a role in Germany with Heinz for 1 semester. So I did a co-op. So they really gave me a great shot, and then right into that leadership development program. But then they got bought out. I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was Valentine's Day that they got bought out. And then I went, and then going to Kraft Oscar, they got bought out by the same company. So it followed me there. And now, as people know, it's the Kraft Heinz company. So like I said, it just, you can plan the world, and to your point, nothing ever works out exactly like the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting. I think that's a fascinating thing. You ended up in the food service, and then you went or like the food companies, and then you went from there to real estate. So that's fascinating. And then, just their promises never are what they seem they're going to be. Sure. I was working with a company when I was 18, and they had brought me in. They're like, hey, we want to make you a manager. And I don't think that people intentionally are lying to anybody. It's just a lot of these deals, these sales, they're so backroom. They're like deep backroom. Only a select people know about them. They're sworn to secrecy for multiple reasons that are actually beneficial when it comes to like investing and insider trading and stuff. It's good that this is public information, but for so many reasons, there's only a few people who know about it. So even very close to the top, they could be hiring people thinking and making promises saying, hey, look, this is going to be a long-term relationship. You're going to be here. I can see you growing over the next 20 years, retiring here. They're selling you the dream, and it's not that they are intentionally lying to you. It's just so easy for that dream to change just on the market wins, the trade wins. Like, coronavirus comes, and now the whole supply chain is screwed up. We're getting our bottles from China, we're getting our sugar from Mexico, and we're getting like all this stuff from everywhere to get everything in Illinois to make the ketchup. Right. And then shipping is all disrupted. I mean, everything gets disrupted. And so then stuff has to change. And that's something that we can't foresee. I mean, this company, they're like, hey, be a manager. It's like, no, I don't want to. I chose to go do summer sales. When I got back from summer sales, the company was shut down and gone out of business. And they were going to hire me as a manager. And I was like, whew, glad I didn't take that job.
Right.
I would have been out of work.
Right.
So it's just funny. You just never, you just never know what that's going to be like. I'm curious, what was your, when you were moving companies, what was your motivation for moving? Was it like when they got bought out, did you have an option to stay, or were you fired from that first job, or let go? Not necessarily fired. I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, no. So my wife is a teacher, and her Georgia license did not have reciprocity in Pennsylvania, but it did in Illinois, Iowa. So when they moved me there, she actually started teaching. It's like she actually started the school year. They moved me over the summer and she started teaching. And so they gave me a role that was back in Pittsburgh. And so, but they allowed me to commute and do, remote work. But I still had to drive back and forth for periods of the time. And good thing I had a buddy that I worked with in Hines in Pittsburgh that allowed me to stay with him. He had a 2-bedroom apartment, townhouse that he owned. And so he allowed me to stay with him, and then I commuted back and forth, but she had already started teaching. So I had to then find something local, and I started to apply. And one of the oldest Oscar Mayer plants is in that town in the Quad Cities, like a 40-minute drive from the Heinz plant in the Quad Cities. And so I was able to get that position to keep my family together. And then we had a young son. So that's why I, found something locally. And then I switched over to the craft just to be then bought out by the same company, which was crazy. And then, like I said, we were there for a few years, and I was like, look, it's time to get back to home base. And so I started looking for positions, and I got the position back in Atlanta. But I knew that they had been acquired, Talenti, the gelato company, by Unilever. So I knew that going in, but they found a reason to fire me. Long story short, but it was actually wrongful termination that I actually won. And so 6 months, in January 2016, I started real estate. By June, I won an undisclosed, settlement that actually allowed me to go on and start my LLC, and hire my first teammate, who's still with me to this day, my assistant. I hired her full time, June 2016. But from the moment that I started in real estate, I started doing everything, driving for dollars, sent my first 1,000 postcards. I got my first contract in February, did my first deal in March for $15K, which I split with the buddy that got me into the business. And so I had immediate success. I stopped applying for jobs. I was like, look, this is what I want to do. This is my way to be an entrepreneur. This is a way to fulfill my dream, my passion, to be an entrepreneur. So it was a rough, but with that great mentor program, I did 6 figures that very first year.
That's awesome. I'm curious, was it like a mindset shift? Because again, I don't know how much you were making at these other companies, but was it a mindset shift to and be able to make 15 grand with one transaction and just be like, man, money is easier to get than I thought it was before. Like this, if this is how stupid simple it is to make money, this is like, I can't not do this. Right.
I mean, the dream that I was following though was, understanding, and my buddy was a great motivator, understanding that, the majority of, wealthy people build their wealth through real estate. So it just made a lot of sense. And for me to be able to come in without a license, with, little money up front, not having to buy the actual asset and then wholesale it. So either assign it or double close using transactional funding. It just made so much sense to me. And I knew that I could, use what I learned in the corporate experience to build a business the right way. Hire my first assistant who really gave me stability as a company, KPIs, marketing, tracking our activity. I leveraged the skill set from the corporate role, problem solving, having lived in multiple states, being able to connect with different people and, talk about the Midwest, talk about farming, talk about all these different things. It just allowed me naturally to be able to connect with people and then build out a business that, actually we took a systematic approach to everything that we did, operations manual, et cetera, that allowed me to really build a business. And that was the biggest thing. And I had a great mentor as well in Tom Kroll from Wholesaling Inc. So I was just super excited. The money was cool, but I wasn't, satisfied with, making 15K. It was just, hey, this is just another transaction. I'm trying to build $1 million business here out the gate. I already had my mind set on what I wanted to do ultimately.
I think that's so cool. And I think that's a blessing that a lot of people don't recognize. I came from a background of not really ever working in corporate America. I guess that job that I told you about is sort of corporate. But it was just like a car wash. Like it was a Blue Beacon truck wash. So that location was shut down. They're still all over the country, but that location was shut down. And then I worked for Pizza Hut for like 2 months. That was hell. Not Pizza Hut's fault.
An actual store or corporate?
No, it was in the store as a waiter. So by no means am I slamming Pizza Hut. Love them, love their pizza, love what they do. I just did not. Food service industry is not for Sam. Like no way is it for Sam. So that's what I learned from that. But the thing is, when you come from a corporate background, you have kind of an idea of how systems work. You have an idea of like, this is who's responsible for what. This is how we separate roles. This is what a SOP, a standing operator procedure, looks like. A lot of entrepreneurs, they're just like, I can't handle corporate America. I can't. This is me. Okay, so I'm talking about Sam Knickerbocker here. I can't handle being in a situation where somebody else tells me what to do. Like it's not going to happen. And so I don't even have that experience. So then when I've been trying to build my business, it takes a lot more time investment and paying of coaches to just help me like, hey, how do I turn my entrepreneur thing that I'm doing into an actual business that's predictable, has stability, that anybody off the street can come in and work. Right? And something that's duplicatable, because that's something that is kind of dismissed with a lot of entrepreneurs. They think, oh, I'm going to be a self-employed entrepreneur. I don't have to answer to anybody. And you can do that, but you're going to forever own your job rather than own a business.
Right. 100%.
And that's just miserable.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that that skill set, to your point, making sure that I built things out that was duplicatable, that was trackable and consistent was very important for me. And, my mentor telling me like, hey, hire an assistant first. A lot of people want to just, be willing and dealing or treat it as if like it's like I'm hustling real estate. Like the only way that you can actually build a business is through hiring specific team members to do specific tasks. And I suggest to all folks that are like getting into wholesaling or doing, anything like that, it's hire a strong administrative assistant to keep your, business, systematic and trackable and keep everything in line. So that was super important. I didn't want to hustle real estate. I wanted to build a business, and that was the best thing for me.
Yeah, no, I just think that's a massive distinction. I'm glad you put it better than I could, because you've done it and I haven't. So I'm working on it, but it's difficult for me because I've hired people in the past, but then I don't even know what to tell them to do, because like I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm putting out fires so fast that I don't like trying to tell somebody else, hey, this is what I'm doing. These are the things that are going on in my head. Because when you've been doing it for 5 to 7 years, you don't even think about all this resource knowledge that you just have in your head. Exactly. That you need to put on paper so that any monkey can come in and take care of that. Like you can hire a robot to do something.
And like I said, that's why my administrative assistant, my VA, was so key, because she was able to understand everything that I was doing and then create an operations manual so that anytime I hire on someone else, they always have her to support them, and she knows what should be happening. And she can, help me plug and play different team members and have a list of, hey, this is how we've done things historically. This is what, you'll need to be able to do. And this is what success looks like. So that was super, super key for me to bring in that administrative assistant.
Yeah, I love it. So I'm curious, just because I want to get some terminology out of the way, because I know that some people understand this. If you're in the real estate game, you probably know what it means to drive for dollars, what a wholesale is, what some of this terminology is. But if you're sitting there on the outskirts, you're thinking, well, that sounds pretty nice. I would like to get in. What are some key phrases that your industry is using that somebody could gain some understanding here so they could have an intelligent conversation of maybe determining what they'd actually be interested in real estate?
For sure. Well, the one thing I will say is that, people shouldn't be so wrapped up in a lot of the fancy terminology, because at the end of the day, you want things to be as simple as possible for yourself and for your team. But the most, used kind of buzzword is ARV, right? So after repair value, what is the value of a property after it's fixed up, after it's renovated? That's what that stands for. The other most important thing that I think is important, and I know we'll get to this, but my business is built upon sending offers, sending more offers. And so the key term with that is MAO. So your maximum allowable offer. That's super important. And then the last one I'll leave your listeners with is equity. And equity being the difference between, if there is a mortgage, the difference between what the home is ultimately worth, like what it would appraise at, versus what you owe on the property. So simple terms, if the home would appraise at $100,000, and the homeowner has a mortgage for $80,000, they owe $80,000 on this home, then they have 20% equity in the home. And if you own the home free and clear, you have 100% equity. So that's super important, to make sure that when you're making offers using your MAO, your maximum allowable offer, that there is still equity in the home, so that when my offer is enough to satisfy anything owed against the property, there's still some equity left over, so that the homeowner can make some money, or the new buyer, once they purchase it, they have some equity in their home. And to bring it full circle, if the home is worth appraised and it's fully fixed up, the ARV in that same scenario would be $100K. If that was if that home was completely renovated, top of the line, the ARV would be 100, the equity would be 20%. And so my maximum allowable offer, I'd make it a little bit above, what's owed against the property, so that there's a little bit of equity left.
So you'd maybe offer 85 or 90,000 based on what your rules are, is how much you need to make on a property.
For sure. That sounds like a rental to me.
Say again.
That sounds like it would be a good rental.
Yeah.
As you wouldn't be able to, do a fix and flip or anything, because there's not enough spread, but yes.
Yeah. But I think this is the other thing that, again, all this, I'm not an expert in this. He is. So you're just going to need to reach out to him. But, and you could reach out to 100 different real estate investors. And the reality is every one of them has different rules. It's just like going to a financial advisor or an investor, an equity, anything. They all have their different rules. Even tax advisors, they have different thresholds where it's like, I want to be this safe with my clients. So if you want more risk in your taxes, that tax advisor is not going to be good for you, because he keeps the line here. And then you can go find, hey, what risk tolerance do you like with your taxes or with your health? I mean, there's some health people who are like, hey, we want this much risk in our health. I want to go to only naturopath because I want this type of risk. I want to go to all medicine because I want this type of risk.
For sure.
Everything in our life, we have to manage risk. And the one thing is, so maybe you have a story about this. I'm curious, because you have your investing rules of like when something makes sense, when it doesn't make sense. Right. Have you ever broken those rules? And what was the result of when you decided, this one I'm going to do it, even though it doesn't fit within my investment profile or my rule, I think it'll still be okay. And you break the rule. What happens?
Yeah, I would say probably the worst rehab that I ever did was one where, it probably, we purchased a home, and when you decide to say, hey, I'm going to do some work on the home, and you're a wholesaler, it should already be a great wholesale deal. If you think like, hey, I'm going to be able to make more because, I'm going to do some work and I'm going to sell it and I'm going to make so much more. Everything in real estate is about if you buy right. So you buy it at the right price. And so that property was not a great wholesale deal. Maybe it was like a $10K deal, but I said, hey, if I fix it up, I'm going to make so much more. Well, what ended up happening is, we did the work, we set it on the market. I purchased a home for maybe 80 or so, and maybe 85, 90. And, we did some work to ultimately sell it like at 120. But once we finished, it sat on the market. It was on the market for a while. We actually had to, based on all the feedback that we got, we actually needed to, redo the roof and, put some more money into it. And then ultimately when we sold it, when it was all said and done, we may have made, 15 grand on it, but I could have wholesaled it in the beginning for 10K and just been done with it, versus like the 5 months or so it took to actually sell, probably like 6 months it took to complete that project. Time, energy wasted,
money locked up.
The quick 10. And so that rule for me now is like, look, if I can't wholesale it and make, 20, 30 grand, I should have no, thoughts about actually, renovating it or wholesaling it, if you will. Because if you think that you're gonna have a great property, after you renovate it and do work to it, it needs to be a great wholesale deal. If it's not a great wholesale deal, don't even think about, doing a full renovation. That's my take on it. And I broke that rule. And because of that, I wasted time, still made a little money on it. But, for 6 months worth of work and tying up cash for that long, I could have just wholesaled it out the gate for 10K.
Yeah. So again, because this is about legacy, this show is about legacy and applying these principles. I bring on business people because I feel like business makes the most sense to me. And I feel like if I run my life like a business, I'm going to be happier in the long run. So that's why I bring people on, business owners on this podcast. But how does this concept of this rule of if it's not a great deal to begin with, don't touch it, how does that apply to relationships?
Yeah.
Your spouse, your kids, your 5 people around you, your mentors, your business coaches. How does it apply there?
Yeah. So great. I guess kind of story for that is, I met my wife. We actually went to, grade school together, and then we met again at Georgia State University. But I always knew that I wanted to, I was pretty mediocre grades in high school. But I knew I wanted to go to a big name school, Big Ten school or something with some notoriety. And so my plan was which was actually a pretty good plan because it actually worked and we executed on it, was to go to college, go to, State University, Georgia State University, get really good grades and make myself more attractive to be able to go to a bigger school. Because right out of high school, I wasn't going to be able to get into Purdue or anything, or Vanderbilt, which was my top 2. And so, meeting Vanessa sophomore year, I had to make a decision. Once I told her like, hey, I just got into Purdue, they accepted me, should we do this as a long-term, long-distance relationship? I'm going to have to go live in, Northwest Indiana. I had to make a decision, could I see myself waking up to this woman for the rest of my life? And so like, if it was a good enough relationship now, it would then just translate to a great relationship over a lifetime. And that decision for me was yes. I knew that I could, I wanted to wake up to this woman for the rest of my life. And because it was a great relationship that we had here locally, then it was going to be a great relationship long term. And she checked the box early on. We checked the box in our early dating. A few years later, we were married, and we just celebrated our 5-year anniversary. So hey, I didn't awesome. Break that rule.
Hey, congratulations. But I think that's so important is like, I've seen so many people who they just get married because quote unquote, it makes sense, or they get married because they have a child with somebody. And so now they feel obligated or whatever. And I'm not here to say you shouldn't be with your spouse or whatever. That's not my intention. But like, in every area, like, do you just go get a job just because it's okay? Or do you get a job because like, at least it's a great job. It's a great fit right now. Now he had a few great jobs and then they turned out to be sour, right? Like
Right.
you can't foresee the future, and I'm not professing that I can either, but if it doesn't make sense, at least in the beginning, write it off, right? I made that mistake getting clients when I first started in my business. I was like, hey, I'm a new business owner, helping people. I want to help anybody. So I would just accept anybody as a client. And you get the bottom of the barrel, right? When you're just allowing anybody to come in, you get the bottom of the barrel. They're all whining. They're all complaining about what's going on. And it's just like, man, this is not going to work long term. And so what I changed to was, look, if it's not a great relationship, if you're not so happy about my service, I just have this little rule personally, right? Because this filters out who's a good client for me. If you're not so happy about what I can do for you that you want to go introduce me to 10 people, then when something bad happens between our relationship, like, because I manage people's money, so like if the market goes down, something out of my control happens, and I have to come give you some maybe not so great news. If it didn't start out great, just think of how unhappy you're going to be when I have to give you, And so it's like, for me, it's like, nah, if you're not happy enough that you want to go tell the whole world about me, then you're just not happy enough to be a client at the get-go. Right. So I have that rule, and I don't break that rule anymore. I broke it a few times after I said it, and now it's just like, no, this is the rule. If you don't like it, the door's right there. I never lock my doors when I have guests. They can leave any time.
You gotta have standards, man. You gotta have standards,
for sure. So I'm curious, what would you say your secret habit, mindset, or behavior is that's helped you create this legacy so far that you're building, and how could we adopt that into our lives and maybe grow and develop ourselves?
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's treating people the right way. It's, one of the rules, life rules, life values, treat others the way that you would want to be treated. And so with everything that we do, every transaction that comes across our desk, we try to do everything in our power to give the best service to that homeowner. And even if we're not the solution for them, try to help, connect them with someone else that can be of better service for them. And by doing so, wholesalers can easily get a bad name in any city, but by doing so, thank goodness I've never had any negative reviews. There was one person that reported us because we were BBB rated, and we resolved it. And it really, the issue was of our own, but by treating every transaction, the right way, how you would want to be treated in that same transaction, if the shoe was on the other foot, you'll continue to put out, good karma, have a good reputable name, in this industry. And, when stuff hits the fan, or, people, want to come down on wholesalers, we're never on that, that list of people that, they're saying yo, don't do business with them. So just always just trying to treat people how I want to be treated. That's a life rule. That's a business rule. And just doing right things. We've had great testimonials, no negative reviews online, and continue to repeat that, rinse and repeat that with everybody that we deal with.
I love that. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I might sneeze here.
For sure. God bless you.
There we go. Thank you. That's one of the biggest things that I can think of, is it's just treating people the way that you want to be treated. Not everybody's going to like the way you treat them. That when you do that, when you obey that rule, in fact, a lot of relationship experts will say, treat people the way that they want to be treated rather than the way you want to be treated. And there's some truth to that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't take into consideration how somebody else wants to be treated and have some compassion and consideration for other people's desires. But ultimately, if you're a chameleon and you aren't sticking by who you are and your integrity, then it's going to just create more problems in the future. Because then that person that you treated the way that they wanted to be treated, when they find out that you treat somebody else different, they're like, oh no, my image of this person's all screwed up. And it's like, well, it's the same person. So would you rather have your constant or your image changing? And as a business, from a branding perspective, you got to have a constant image. You can't have a changing image. So the people who like you, they'll work with you. The people who don't like you, generally, they will never show up to work with you. And so that's why you get bad reviews, because the people who don't want to work with you, they don't work with you. Same with me. People who don't want to work with Sam, they never get past the first phone call because I tell them what's expected, and they're like, oh, I don't like that. Hey, that's cool. It's just not a good fit.
Right.
Then,
100%.
So I'm curious, how do we get a hold of you if we wanted to learn more about what you're doing, maybe join you or start something on the side? Like, what does that process look like? How do we get a hold of you? Is there coaching, mentorship? Obviously you had a mentor, and what does that look like?
Yeah. And I'll say this, for anybody in anything, any situation, having a mentor help guide you to where you want to go is going to be the most critical thing for your success early on, especially as an entrepreneur. Find somebody that is where you want to be, and follow them and do as they say, as they lead out, follow that lead. And so I do provide mentorship for aspiring real estate investors or wholesalers. But my website is sendmoreoffers.com. And there's some personal links down there at the bottom. Even if you're interested in our monthly meetup where we bring world-class speakers and other real estate investors that come share their nuggets of wisdom each and every month, there's a link to the Facebook group at the bottom of the homepage at sendmoreoffers.com. So anytime you can click on one of those links, send me a DM. I'd love to chat and share with you what my journey has been in this real estate investing business and help you get to your goals as well.
I love that, guys. This is, I love that he named his website sendmoreoffers.com, because the reality is most things in life, not everything, but most things in life is a numbers game. And the person who's doing more is going to win more, bigger, right? 100%. It's not who has the most money, who sends the most offers, who makes the most proposals, who makes the most dials, who makes the most contacts, who shakes the most hands, right? It's who does the most, who serves the most people, right? Mother Teresa wouldn't be Mother Teresa if she didn't focus her life on serving the most people, right? And so think about that and think, what is my thing that I need to be doing more of? Right? Maybe you're a mom, you need to give more kisses and hugs to your kids. Maybe you're a dad, you need to spend a little bit more time with your family rather than TV. But whatever it is, what do you need to do more of to be the best at whatever it is that you want to be the best at? And identify what that is for you and do more of it.
Interesting story. I have a buddy that also, he's actually one of my coaching students, went to Purdue with me, but he also worked in digital marketing. So we worked for Microsoft and ran their Bing, digital marketing, a group of their business. And he took the same principles of sending more offers to homeowners to buy their home. He took that and applied it in his digital marketing agencies, to where when he was meeting with clients, instead of showing them and demoing the product and showing them everything, he actually came to those meetings with a written proposal for his service. And he said once he started to do that and share those proposals up front, regardless of whether or not they felt like they were a good fit, he started to gain more clients. So this is something that, is transferable to other businesses. But it's finding an opportunity to make sure that you treat that proposal, that offer, as another marketing piece for you. Don't just assume that you only need to make offers when it feels like you're a fit for each other. Give them a proposal and an offer regardless of the situation, and you'll find that you won't not only just do business with the people that are a natural fit. You'll find that somebody will sit on that and reach back out to you, or maybe they didn't think they were a fit, or they were guarded when you first talked, and then they consider it and they actually want to do business with you because you took that extra step of giving a proposal or an offer to that person. So super, super transferable.
Yeah, love that. Couldn't said it better myself. So we're entering the just to re-say this. Okay, it's sendmoreoffers.com. Go visit that. If nothing else, just go check out his stuff, his free content, and see if it's a good fit, right? And then maybe he'll send you an offer, and then just freaking consider it, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Consider the offer.
Love it.
So here's the deal. So Legacy on Rapid Fire. This is one of my favorite sections of the show. 5 questions, 1 word, 1 sentence answers. This is fast, like game show. Okay. So Legacy on Rapid Fire starts now. What is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today? More
marketing dollars. I'm going to get the right teammate in place to start to do creative financing offers instead of just the cash deals that I've been historically doing. I want to add that in to start to create creative financing opportunities with homeowners.
And what do you believe is the hardest thing you've ever accomplished?
6 figures that first year, that very first year on my own, having a profitable business my first year as an entrepreneur, that was super tough.
Okay. And what is the greatest success at this point in your life?
My 4 kids. I'm super proud of the great young boys and one young princess daughter who's the youngest. I'm super grateful that they're great kids and they're smart and loving and always happy and energetic.
Fantastic. What's another secret that you believe contributes to your success?
Building a business for where you want it to be, not where it is now. So making the right hires for where you want your business to go, not just making the hires for right now or making decisions for the now. Make decisions for the future and where you want your business to grow.
Love that. And what book would you recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
I would do The One Thing. I think that's transferable. The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Yep. Fantastic book. Awesome. Thank you so much. And this is now my actual favorite part of the show. Okay. So we're going to find out how in alignment you are with what you said, where you headed. So we're going to pretend that you've died. We're now 6 generations from now. So this is your great, 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 great grandchildren. They're sitting around the dinner table discussing your life. They're trying to say, what did Brandon do? How did his life impact the world? How did it impact us? What do you want them to be saying about your legacy 6 generations from now?
I would want them to say that Brandon was, a trailblazer. He, built his success and fortune through hard work, determination, and did things the right way. And then he also helped a bunch of other people fulfill their goals and accomplishments through his mentoring and coaching efforts. As he became successful, he brought other people with him and had some great kids.
Had some great kids, right? Because we're part of those. Hey, well, thank you so much, Brandon. Again, go check out his website at how did I just forget? Send More Offers.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Sendmoreoffers.com. And then also, I have recently published 2 books on Amazon. So if you want to go check those out, they're journals. One is the Fulfillment Journal, and then the other is called Identifying Your Identity, Redefine Your Defining Moments. I think both of those could have a lot of applicability to what we talked about today as far as staying grounded and building the future that you want consciously first, and then see that happen and start unfolding in reality as you get some coaching and mentorship from whatever industry that you want to join. But I think Send More Offers is a great place to start if you're at all interested in real estate. So thank you so much, Brandon. And we'll catch you guys next time on Fuel Your Legacy.
Awesome. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me. And if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.